Do you use emoticons in your texts and emails? Emoticons are emotion icons, and chances are you do use them. And if so, do you recognize these emoticons? Here's one. Here is another. And I have two more. Here is the third one. And the fourth one. Did you recognize any of them? Chances are the first two were easy to recognize. They stood for happiness and sadness. And if you are educated and grew up in the United States, it's likely that you use those emoticons often. The next two perhaps were a little bit harder to recognize. Those are also happiness and sadness, but they are more commonly used in the East Asian setting. Researchers have found that the commonly used emoticons in East Asian settings are emphasizing a different body part compared to the ones that you saw in the first two. The latter two, the ones that are used in the East Asian setting, are emphasizing the eyes. And so those emoticons tend to emphasize the body part of the eyes, but the first two emphasize the shape of the mouth, whether it's the smiling face or the mouth that was in a sad position. And I tell you this example because research indicates that what explains the preference for these two different types of emoticons might be different preferences for communication styles. Namely, in the US and Western context, we emphasize something called the low context communication. That is, what comes out of the mouth is what is really important. When we say things like, say what you mean and mean what you say, we're essentially saying that words are important in communication. So low context communication also implies that the context or the nonverbals might not as emphasized. In contrast, notice that in the East Asian setting, what is unsaid might be considered just as important, if not more important. That is, high context communication emphasizes the importance of the nonverbals, including maybe the history between the people who are communicating, but also the body language, and as exemplified in the emoticon, what your eyes are doing during the communication. Hence, the third and fourth emoticon that I showed you tended to really feature the eyes or the ability to read the room without any kind of words, whereas the first two really emphasized the mouth or the ability to communicate verbally. So I just wanted to share that as an example of a cross-cultural psychological research.